Well, from wherever you're watching us in Kenya and around the world, this is KBC Prime Edition coming to you live from Broadcasting House right here in Nairobi, Kenya. Good evening. My name is Mboya. Top in this live broadcast.
That we must once again take our steps to prevent the slide into a crisis like the one we experienced in 2020 and 2021.
Wear your mask. Government reintroduces mandatory protocol to curb surge in COVID infections.
Total number of registered voters is 22,120,458.
22.1 million register as voters, as IBC says it will take action against 3 employees who tampered with voters' register. Let the law take its course. Education CS Professor Mboya cautions against the politicization of higher education certificates. Raring to go. National Olympics team to the Birmingham Commonwealth Games receives training kits. Well, thank you for joining us. Of course, KBC has the exclusive rights to air the Birmingham Commonwealth Games as well as the World Athletic Championships. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Lucy Mwaura. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Mboya24, hashtag Prime Edition. Straight to our top story. The Ministry of Health has reintroduced the mandatory wearing of masks in enclosed spaces, including offices, places of worship, as well as public service vehicles following an upsurge of COVID-19 infections in the country. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says that the COVID-19 overall positivity rate has risen from a weekly average of 0.6% at the beginning of May 2022, if you remember, to a weekly average of 10.74 in the week ending 19th of June 2022. This is, according to Kagwe, has highly been attributed to laxity, in particular during the political campaign seasons. Let's take a look at that story in more detail.
With the electioneering period taking shape, the Ministry of Health is concerned over the laxity being displayed by a section of the political class and those attending campaign rallies.
Kuna watu ambao wana shout, unamwangalia unaona sasa anafanya kelele mingi, amefungua kila kitu, na sasa ule mwingine pia anafanya hivyo hivyo. Sasa hiyo virusi inaruka kutoka huyu, huwezi kusema si kwa sababu wewe ni wauda huwezi kupata virusi kutoka mtu wa Azimio, ama mtu wa Azimio hawezi kupata kutoka UDA. Hii kitu haina chama ya kisiasa.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe noting that the country has been facing an upsurge in the number of COVID-19 infections, with the overall positivity rate rising from a weekly average of 0.6% at the beginning of May 2022 to a weekly average of 10.74% in the week ending 19th of June 2022.
Most of the functions I attend these days, people talk about when COVID was here. You know, they talk about in the past tense. Wakati wa COVID. Kama wakati wa COVID uliisha. Wakati wa COVID ni sasa. Wakati wa COVID iko hapa saa hii.
The CS saying that it was time the country went back to the basics, such as wearing masks in enclosed spaces such as passenger vehicles, churches, among others.
That we must once again take our steps to prevent the slide into a crisis like the one we experienced in 2020 and 2021, when we lost many lives and resources.
If you have flu-like symptoms, please stay at home. Don't go to work and expose other people, because flu, common cold, COVID, like other respiratory tract infections, are highly transmissible.
Kagwe noting that the ministry was still concerned over the low number of people taking the COVID-19 vaccine, with only that 1.5% of the adults being fully vaccinated.
The slow uptick of vaccination rates that we have up from over 300,000 per day down to about 12,000 per day, and now likely dropping to about 5,000 per day.
This coming as the country recorded 252 new COVID-19 cases out of 1,993 samples tested in the last 24 hours. This representing a 12.6% positivity rate. No death was reported, with 75 patients currently admitted to hospital. Out of this number, 1 patient is in the intensive care unit, with another 3,081 receiving treatment at home. With the recent rise in the COVID-19 positivity rate, the Ministry of Health has maintained that one of the ways to beat the virus is to get vaccinated, even as it urged members of the public to continue adhering to the set containment measures. Nancy Okware, reporting for Prime Edition from Afya House, Nairobi.
The Ministry of Health, they're tightening restrictions amid a spike in the COVID-19 infections. Let's now look at the state of the IEBC voter register update. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission intends to prosecute 3 of its officials for allegedly tampering with the voters register. IEBC says that investigations are ongoing on the role of the 3 in the irregular transfer of voters, and once complete, they will be charged. While releasing an audit report on the voters register conducted by KPMG, the Commission said 22.1 million voters are eligible to take part. Here is that report.
The total number of registered voters is 22,120,458, and the number of polling stations stands at 46,232. Women represent 49.12% of registered voters, and men represent 50.88% of the total voters.
It was during the announcement of an audit report on the voter register by audit firm KPMG that IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati noted that during the exercise, irregular transfer of voters was unearthed and 3 officials of the Commission are under investigation.
There was also a finding on transfer of voters. KPMG analyzed the full register and noted that there were transfer transactions processed between 2017 general election and May 2022. The analysis of those transfers identified several constituencies and counties showing trends of abnormal voter transfers having been processed in the register of voters. We have our suspects. About 3 officers. We are actually finalizing investigations, and they'll be apprehended to face the law. Transactions in areas identified as having unusual transfer records had been reversed.
The Commission also ruled out the use of manual voter register in the election to discourage election malpractices, saying polling centers with no internet connectivity will be served by satellite modems to transmit results.
The reason why the Commission has decided to use a digital register as opposed to physical register is to prevent certain malpractices that were actually there before.
The Commission confirmed that all deceased voters had been removed from the register of voters, resolving 100% of all such cases. With less than 50 days to go, IEBC assured that all challenges relating to the KIMS kit had been addressed, with the Commission procuring additional kits to cover any malfunctions that may arise on the material day.
Total number of registered voters is 22,120,458, and the number of polling stations stands at 46,232.
For Prime Edition, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
Well, before we bring you that story that's on the lips of many, the Magoha effect degrees, let us take you live to Milimani Lokot, where the Sonko ruling is ongoing, and Justice Nyangai is speaking. Let's take a look and listen into the proceedings there.
Demanded for more documents which were brought while the complainant was still seated at the respondent's desk. According to counsel, The respondent had 14 days to verify the documents, particularly the existence of the appeal. He further submitted that this committee has a duty to bring home the rights under Article 38 of the Constitution. Mr. Katesia, in his submission, told the committee that the respondent was not fair in doing her job and that she was applying double standard. He made reference to Article 47(1) of the Constitution and placed emphasis on the word reasonable as used under that article. He also made reference to Article 24 of the Constitution, in which he argued that the respondent is an authority who is required to ensure the constitutional dictates of equality and equity are met. On the issue of double standards, Council made reference to a Gazette notice dated 18th February 2021, in which the name of Governor Ferdinand Waititu appeared as a gubernatorial candidate in Kiambu County by election, and yet he had been impeached. It was Council's contention that if Governor Waititu was cleared by IEBC despite his impeachment, why should they treat the complainant differently? Council stated that this fact was brought to the attention of the respondent. He pointed out that at the time he was cleared, Ferdinand Waititu had a case before the High Court challenging his impeachment, the same way the complainant has an appeal before the Supreme Court challenging his impeachment. Council further pointed out that IEBC is a party to the matter before the Supreme Court, and therefore the respondent should have been aware of the appeal. On his part, Dr. Haminwa referred the committee to Articles 259(3), Article 38(3), and Article 159(2), 193(3), and 21(1) of the Constitution. He argued that Article 75(3) of the Constitution is not applicable at all in this matter as a stand-alone provision. Mr. Mukele, counsel for the respondent, began his submissions by clarifying that Governor Ferdinand Waititu has not been cleared for purposes of the general election to be held on 9th August 2022. He argued that the documents presented by the complainant as a basis of alleging bias and discrimination only relate to a by-election in 2021 and not any other election. He explained that the Gazette notice referred to by the complainant's counsel was not a clearance but an intent to participate in an election. According to counsel, this is procedural and it is done before candidates are cleared. Counsel pointed out that even the complainant was gazetted as an aspirant ahead of the nomination process. On the issue of Article 38 and the complainant's political rights, counsel submitted that the respondent acted in full appreciation of rights under Article 38 of the Constitution and the laws that govern the conduct of elections. Counsel urged the committee to disregard the submission that the degree issue was brought to the attention of the respondent at 3:30 p.m. and that the respondent allowed the claimant to bring more documents the following day. It was counsel's position that these issues do not appear in the complainant's affidavit and therefore amount to adducing of evidence from the bar. Counsel contended that there was no request by the complainant for extension of time to allow him present his documents later. Counsel summarized the reasons for the respondent's refusal to clear the complainant as failure to present original degree certificate, failure to comply with Article 75 of the Constitution, and failure to present certified copy of degree certificate from the relevant university. According to counsel, the complaint as drawn only challenges the disqualification of the complainant under Article 75 of the Constitution. Counsel also played a video to demonstrate that the Supreme Court appeal was brought to the attention of the respondent on the 8th June 2022, after the period of clearance had lapsed. He contended that this was an attempt to supply out of time documents that should have been presented on the 7th June 2022. According to regarding the claim made by the complainant that evidence of the existence of Supreme Court appeal was presented to the respondent in form of a letter from the complainant's advocate, counsel for the respondent that the said letter was received at 4:31 p.m. Additionally, counsel argued that the letter referred to by the complainant's counsel only referred to existence of an appeal without any proof.
Very well, that's the IBC Dispute Resolution Tribunal. They're making its ruling on that Mike Sonko matter. Of course, he will be able to know his fate for his Mombasa governor bid once that ruling is delivered in full. And of course, our reporter Sarafina Robi will also be giving us more detail. Now, two petitioners have moved to the High Court to challenge the clearance of Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Juma to vie for the Kilifi gubernatorial seat. The petitioners are seeking a judicial review on Juma's academic papers. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission has today concluded the hearing of complaints by dissatisfied aspirants. Sarafina Robi puts that story once again into perspective for us.
Malindi Member of Parliament Aisha Juma is not out of the woods yet in her Kilifi gubernatorial bid. This is after two petitioners Rajab Menza Shikara and Daniel Chengo Kahinde moved to the High Court to seek judicial review on academic qualifications. The duo argue that according to the documents in their possession, Juma was a Form 2 dropout, raising questions on the validity of her university degree certificate. They now seek to stop the Malindi constituency Member of Parliament from being gazetted to be on the ballot paper for the August 9th polls.
Nataka ukweli ubainike. Kama kweli amesoma tujue. Manake itakuwa ni aibu, hata itakuwa pia inatoa morali kwa watu kusoma. Manake kama mtu anaweza kupata degree na hakusoma, hiyo ni mambo ya kuhuzunisha.
Meanwhile, the IEBC Dispute Resolution Committee has dismissed a complaint filed by artist Ruben Kigame, who was disqualified from vying for presidency. Kigame had been denied clearance for failing to meet the 2,000 signatures required in at least 24 counties. The committee said there was no waiver on compliance for the 2,000 signatures for persons living with disability, and Kigame ought to have complied, noting there was no legal instrument placed mandating the IEBC to waive other requirements to favor persons living with disability.
The ruling of the PPDT having been stayed, the complainant cannot be deemed to be the duly nominated candidate. On account of the fact that the judgment of the PPDT barring the forwarding of the name of the first respondent to IBC remains in force, the decision of the third respondent to clear the first respondent to vie did not take into account the PPDT judgment and can only be revoked.
This comes as another presidential aspirant, Mwangi Weria, opted to go to the High Court to challenge the IEBC decision not to clear him. The IEBC had noted that Wairia had submitted signatures from 9 counties instead of the requisite signatures from 24 counties. Finally, Mombasa gubernatorial aspirant Mike Sonko's fate hangs in the balance as the committee is set to deliver its determination on his clearance. Serafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Now take you to the geopolitical space where regional leaders have called for an immediate ceasefire in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The 7 members of the East African Community have directed the regional force to move with speed to restore peace in the DRC, especially in the restive North and South Kivu, as well as the Ituri provinces. President Uhuru Kenyatta has directed the regional security force to cooperate in the implementation of the disarmament as well as demobilization process. Here is that report.
During the meeting attended by heads of states from Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, DR Congo and Uganda have instructed the regional force to stabilize and secure peace in the disturbed regions of northern DR Congo. The meeting that was chaired by President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House here in Nairobi has further directed an immediate ceasefire to be enforced and cessation of hostilities to commence immediately.
As well as
the meeting has also called for the withdrawal from recently taken positions in the region. President Kenyatta has also directed the political process to be intensified by all parties in order to allow the citizens of the DRC to feel safe and secure and be able to pick up and continue their respective social, cultural and economic activities. The meeting has also called for all offensive language, hate speech, threats or genocide and other politically inciting languages to be ceased and be discouraged by all parties. The concave meeting comes as heavy fighting revives decades-old rivalry between DRC and Rwanda, with the mineral-rich DRC struggling to contain several armed groups in the east of the nation. Reporting for Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
Well, that report brings us to our first break. A little later on in this live broadcast, Deputy President William Ruto says forthcoming elections must be devoid of violence, and Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga says the dragon of corruption to be slayed if he's elected. All that coming up. Stay with us.
Every day, over 15 million members are transforming Africa. 15 million members, empowered to learn, to create, to grow, to harvest, to lead, to dream. Equity. Karibu member.
Welcome back. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Mboya24, #Prime Edition. On to that story that is in the lips of many. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Mboya has weighed in, and he says the current discussions on fake degrees, in particular among those seeking elective positions, should not be politicized. Professor Mboya says relevant agencies should be allowed to follow the matter without undue influence. He said the debate is making a mockery of the country's education sector. Here is that report.
While touring and inspecting Mboya Educational Center in Nairobi to assess its preparedness to implement CBC Junior Secondary School, Professor Mboya said so much energy is being wasted in courts as individuals try to prove whether their degrees are genuine or fake, something he said does not need days to prove if the relevant bodies are allowed to do their job.
It is just very shameful that we are spending so much energy in the courts or the people who are supposed to be doing election. It is a very simple matter. You have either done a degree and graduated or you have not. A judge cannot give you a degree. That's what I used to say, that it doesn't matter whether a judge pronounces himself, he cannot give you a degree.
He said this discussion is in itself sending a wrong example to children who are working hard to be leaders in future.
There is no harm in asking. For example, if you say you are a surgeon, we usually check and confirm whether you actually trained as a surgeon. How many hours did you train? It is not politics. Forget about politics. It's about life and death. Are we together here?
At the same time, Mboya called on private schools to hasten the construction of classes for junior secondary school level. He said out of the targeted 5,000 classrooms by private schools, only 1,296 are ready.
We have a few spots like in Bungoma where I'm going to be most of this week to ensure that we complete, and one or two other counties in the Rift Valley. Everybody else has completed. So we have 0.5% of the classrooms, but there's no 0.5% of a child. We want to be sure that all classrooms are built.
Professor Mboya putting on notice contractors who have not delivered their mandates, saying their contracts will be cancelled. Beatrice Gatonyangetich, Prime Edition.
Let's shift gears and move into politics. Deputy President William Ruto says the forthcoming elections must be devoid of violence and intimidation. Ruto has called on the political elite in the country to be mindful of how they conduct their campaigns, as some utterances and actions risk polarizing the country. JJ Kioria reports.
The Kenya Kwanza captain was in Njoro, Nakuru County, for a town hall meeting with residents drawn from Njoro and Molo constituencies. With the area always being mapped by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission as a possible hotspot, Ruto pleaded with area residents to shun leaders keen on incitement while conducting their campaigns.
Watu wa Nakuru County, hapa ndipo tulianzisha ile safari ya kuunganisha Kenya na kuondoa siasa ya chuki na ukabila na mambo ya kugawanya watu. Mimi nataka niwaambie, juu ya hiyo msingi tutajenga mambo ya maendeleo ya taifa letu la Kenya. Wale wanawauzia uoga hapa Nakuru ni kwa sababu hawana sera, hawana mpango, hawana maono. Ndio unaona wanakuja hapa wanauzia sisi kama watu wa Rift Valley ati kutatokea hii, kutatokea hii, kutatokea hii. Sisi tunataka tuwaambie shetani alishindwa samani.
The deputy president also warned politicians against polarizing the country.
Of course, against the background of what happened yesterday, people legitimately get concerned when they see organized chaos and violence by certain leaders.
Ruto says if elected president, his administration will jealously guard the peaceful coexistence of communities living in cosmopolitan areas.
I want to assure the people of Kenya that our supporters will be peaceful. We want a peaceful election. We want the people of Kenya to make a decision in an environment free of blackmail, intimidation, threats, conflict, or violence. We want the people of Kenya to make choices out of the manifesto that we have, the plan that we have, and the agenda that we have for the country.
Sentiments echoed by his Kenya Kwanza partners, led by ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi, who called for action against those who sponsored the violence that rocked their rally at Jacaranda grounds in Nairobi on Sunday.
The significance of us, pahali Muriithi alipigwa mawe, na sisi tukachapwa na mawe. The significance of going there was to send a message to the people of Kenya that musiogope, Kenya Kwanza will march forward, will soldier on, and we shall win on the 9th of August.
John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
Well, let's stay with politics. Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition presidential candidate Raila Odinga says that the dragon of corruption will be slain under his tenure if he's elected to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta. Odinga, who exuded confidence in emerging victorious in the presidential race, urged Kenyans to shun political offering what he termed as false pledges.
Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga says his government will put an end to the theft of public resources. Odinga, who spoke during Azimio campaigns in Kajiado County, claimed the country has lost billions of shillings under the reign of selfish leaders, whom he said will be held solely responsible under the Azimio government.
Adui yetu mkubwa kama Wakenya ni ufisadi. Ufisadi wanatoa ahadi mingi sana. 2013 waliambia vijana ati kila mtoto ndani ya miezi 6 atakuwa na laptop kila shule. Hiyo laptop mliona? Mliona hiyo laptop?
Odinga, who urged Rongai, Kware, Kiserian, and Ngong residents to support his bid, also pledged to lower the cost of living and ensure affordable health care to all Kenyans.
Na wale maskini, jamii maskini ambaye hawana mapato yoyote, sio kwa kuchagua kwao, lakini kwa sababu ya hali ya maisha. Saa ingine bala njaa imezuka, tunaleta mpango inaitwa Social Protection Program, kama vile unafanyika kule Marekani, kule bara ya Ulaya.
Those accompanying Odinga urging Kajiado residents to avoid being hoodwinked by their opponents, whom they accused of offering false promises.
Ikiwa wapinzani wetu wamekuja kuahidi mabilioni hapa na pale bila kusimama na kuapa kupambana na ufisadi, ujue hiyo ni ahadi ya mdomo peke yake. Mimi nimesimama nyuma ya baba.
Tushikilie baba mkono, tumshikilie baba na mama, tuko hapa team.
The Azimio leaders also urged the region to fully support Azimio leaders and ensure solid victory come the August 9th. For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
The United Democratic Alliance Nairobi gubernatorial candidate Johnson Sakaja now says his woes over the authenticity of his degree certificate are politically instigated. Sakaja, who appeared before the Directorate of Criminal Investigations DCI Monday, said that the move will not deter him from his bid in becoming the next governor of Nairobi. Here's that report.
On Monday, the embattled United Democratic Alliance Nairobi gubernatorial candidate Johnson Sakaja was the guest at the Directorate of Criminal Investigation headquarters along Kiambu Road. The Nairobi senator was here to prove the authenticity of his bachelor's degree certificate acquired from Team University in Uganda. Sakaja arrived at DCI headquarters at 3:55 p.m. He was required to produce a number of documents that will justify that indeed he was a student at the university. The probe will take almost 4 hours. And when he emerged, Sakaja blamed his predicament on politics.
So this is a summons by the law. From CUE, I think it was in media, we have not received anything formal. Once they send it, we are ready to abide by each and every process. We have nothing whatsoever to hide. We have nothing to keep away. We presented the documents like every other aspirant presented. With a degree certificate, it was presented. If it was a transcript, it was presented. And so we stick to what the law demands from us.
He said no intimidation will deter him from achieving his goal of becoming the Nairobi governor after the August general election.
As we've stated severally, as law-abiding citizens, we had received summons to the DCI, industry sectors in Nairobi, and so we keep focused on that.
Sakaja, alongside his Machakos gubernatorial counterpart Wavinya Ndeti, was summoned by the DCI over the authenticity of their degree certificates. Even as the embattled United Democratic Alliance Nairobi gubernatorial candidate Johnson Sakaja continues to fight hard to prove the authenticity of the degree certificate acquired from Team University in Uganda, the Nairobi senator now says he will not be intimidated, cowed, moved or swayed to drop the ball, saying he will be in the ballot in the August 9th poll to square it out with other candidates, exuding an air of confidence of emerging the winner to become the Capital County boss. Timothy Kipnusu, Prime Edition, Nairobi.
Sakaja saying he will be on the ballot. 49 days, of course, to go to the August 9th general poll. And the registrar of political parties, Nderitu, is tonight urging leaders to tame their supporters and caution them against engaging in acts of violence during ongoing political campaigns. Speaking after flagging off a peace caravan right here in Nairobi, Kenya, Nderitu warned that party leaders who fail to tame their supporters and candidates affiliated with their parties risk having their outfits deregistered.
The registrar of political parties is now reading a riot act to political parties to tame their supporters and save the country from anarchy, or they be kicked out from taking part in the 9th August general election. Nderitu saying her office will not watch as politicians tear the country apart and that leaders have the responsibility to ensure their campaigns are conducted in a peaceful atmosphere.
We know what happened to this country 2007. We must learn from that. We should not have a repeat of that. We must maintain tolerance for different opinions that are coming from different political players. Listen to them and then make your choice.
The registrar challenging party leaders to take charge of their supporters by openly condemning any act of violence and urge them to observe peace and harmony during the electioneering period.
At the highest level, they must take responsibility by condemning intolerance and violence. It is not sanctioned by the parties, probably the individuals within political parties, but political parties must take responsibility in terms of condemning it and control of their supporters.
And we expect that the 4 presidential candidates will be present and sign for the peace pledge, so that now the 4 of them are under our radar. I wouldn't say it's number 1, number 2, number 3. So all the 4 are under our radar. So anybody causing violence, anybody perpetrating violence will be brought to book.
NCIC chairperson Reverend Samuel Kobia, who attended the peace caravan, launched call on security agencies to investigate and prosecute those behind Sunday's attempted disruption of Kenya Kwanza rally in Nairobi.
Cannot tolerate the kind of violence that happened yesterday at Jacaranda. We in NCIC, therefore, are working with the other stakeholders at what we call the multi-sectoral forum, because it's only by working together. There's no one single commission or one single state office that can succeed in singly. Therefore, we must work together, and that is the significance of what has happened today in launching this caravan.
Now, moving on, 3 senior land officials were today arraigned in a Mombasa court for allegedly aiding private developers in grabbing public land. The trio, Wilson Gashanja, Zablon Mboya, and Jabu Salim, were charged separately with abuse of office, willful neglect of their official duties, and aiding the commission of felony. They were later released on 1 million shilling each in a surety of the same, or cash bail of 200,000 shillings each.
It was a day of reckoning for the accused former Commissioner of Lands, Wilson Gashanja, former senior lands officer in charge of Coast Province, Zablon Mboya, and Jabu Salim, former physical planner in the Ministry of Lands. The trio's tribulation started at the Integrity Center early Monday, before they were transferred to Mombasa Law Court for charges. According to Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the accused acquired a public access road in Diani, Kwale County, valued at 30 million Kenya shillings.
The officials, according to the investigations and the consent given by the DPP to charge them, are going to be charged for illegal aiding of grabbing of public land to a private developer in the name of Galerius Investment Limited, and the land is located in Diani Beach. That is Diani Beach Road along Diani location in Msambweni County.
The accused Wilson Gashanja, Zablon Mboya, and Jabu Salim denied the charges before Principal Magistrate Martin Rabera and released on 1 million shillings each and a surety of the same or cash bail of 200,000 shillings each.
Whoever does that as a public official, they should just note that we are just undergoing a political transition, but the accountability as a government officer will still remain there, and any sort of malpractice, even if you have retired and it gets on you, people will be charged and they'll be arrested and they'll face the law.
They allegedly committed the offences on diverse dates between June 23rd and August 10th, 1994 in Kwale County. Trial will begin on 4th July 2022. Ruth Wamboy reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, just a quick update on the IBC Dispute Resolution Tribunal that is making its ruling on the Mike Sonko matter. We understand that the RO has rejected Sonko documents. A number of grounds have been indicated. I'll just give you 3 for now. Number 1, failure to present his original certificates. The second ground is failure to present certified copies of those certificates. And the third ground is a breach on Article 75 of the Constitution. Remember that we're keeping tabs on that story. The ruling is live at this moment, and of course we will be giving you the update once the full delivery has been made in full. Now, moving on, the National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF, has signed a memorandum of understanding with Roche Kenya Limited to offer breast cancer drugs at a subsidized rate. The deal will now see patients seeking treatment being fitted into the NHIF chemotherapy package. Edwin Austin with the County News Wrap.
Speaking during the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding at the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, Ministry of Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache said that cancer is one of the key public health challenges, with over 6,000 cases of breast cancer being diagnosed in Kenya each year.
We are able as government to negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies and lower the costs and enable NHIF to reimburse at a cost that is affordable. Then there would be no need at all for anybody to leave the country for treatment.
This MOU at the moment is open-ended. Yeah, and as we are looking, and as you had even earlier, whereby the focus is on human life. So, and we are looking at ensuring that more Kenyans do have access.
Elsewhere, the government spokesperson Cyrus Oguna has called on youths, women and people with disability to be on the lookout for government empowerment programs and opportunities.
Every ministry has got 30% budget on procurement. That 30% just targets you, the youth, women and people living with disability. And therefore, when you talk about the concept of nobody is left behind, you can then begin to see how that is manifested within effort and initiatives of the government.
There is a framework that the law has provided that anybody who is dissatisfied with the procurement process, there is an appeal mechanism. First of all, you can go to the accounting officer of that entity and say, look, we have been treated unfairly. There are so many other government agencies that are able to listen to these complaints and investigate.
Elsewhere, a Nairobi court has ordered the extradition of a fugitive wanted in the United Kingdom for sexual offences. Anthony Kamau is wanted at Chelmsford, Crown of Great Britain, and Northern Ireland, where he was charged with 7 counts of engaging in a non-penetrative sexual activity with a minor. Anthony Kamau has been on the run since jumping bail in the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, police in Kamukunji sub-county are investigating the mysterious death of 18-year-old Form 4 student at Uhuru Secondary Boarding School. Samson Mokaya, according to students' account, was playing basketball at the school hall when he collapsed. His body was ferried to the hospital where he was pronounced dead on arrival.
Nina uchungu mimi kama mzazi. Ati wale watoto walikuwa wanaokoa maisha yao wakitoroka. Wako na tension kwa sababu ati wamejiokoa. Wako na tension, lakini mtoto alikuwa anatoroka juu ya kujiokoa, juu anasema anaona moto. Vita ndio yao wanapigwa. Hawa form 4 wanalia, wanasema tuliwakosea nini kwa sababu hajapata nini msaada.
So hakuna haja ya kufichana. Kama iko shida tutaisort mpaka mwisho. Kwa sababu we are at a loss. Hatujui kitu tutaambia watu na wazazi na walimu pia tunataka tujue ni nini kwa sababu watoto wako under their care.
Finally, Kirinyaga County Commissioner Moses Ivuto has directed all bars to be closed at 11 p.m. at Kutus Town after a meeting that was held between his security team and the Kirinyaga University. This directive comes after a student at Kirinyaga University was killed in the wee hours of the morning after a drinking spree 3 weeks ago sparking protest by colleagues. Edwin Austin, Prime Edition.
The name Raila Amolo Odinga is largely associated with opposition politics. However, he has had his moments in the service of the country from the right wing, serving in a cabinet, starting with the government of President Daniel Moi, if you can recall, and later on in the cabinet of President Mwai Kibaki. Tonight in the cabinet, we focus on Raila's life as a cabinet minister.
Born on January 7, 1945, Raila Amolo Odinga first joined the cabinet in March 2001 when his National Development Party merged with President Daniel Arap Moi's KANU to form the new KANU. President Moi appointed Raila to the cabinet alongside other LDP leaders, serving as Minister for Energy between June 2001 and late 2002. In October 2002, Raila resigned as Minister for Energy and NDP left the government in a half, tagging along a host of KANU rebels who resigned over President Moi's succession debacle. The KANU renegades include Kalonzo Musyoka, Joseph Kamotho, and Professor George Saitoti, with whom Raila formed the Rainbow Movement, which would later merge with Mwai Kibaki-led National Alliance Party of Kenya (NAC) to form National Rainbow Coalition (NAC) in the same year, that is 2002. Raila is credited with making it easy for Mwai Kibaki to be the NAC 2002 presidential candidate through his famous Kibaki Tosha declaration at Nairobi's Uhuru Park. When NAC won elections on December 27, 2002, and Kibaki was sworn in, Raila joined the cabinet on January 3, 2003 as Minister for Roads, Public Works and Housing, where he served until 2005. It is worth noting that on assuming office, President Kibaki neither appointed Raila as Prime Minister, neither did he give Raila's LDP faction of NAC half of the cabinet positions as per the pre-election Memorandum of Understanding. This perceived betrayal started a simmering disquiet, which with time led an open rebellion and a split within the cabinet. The Kibaki side held that there was no constitutional provision that allowed for such appointment. During the referendum to change the constitution held on 21st November 2005, the Raila-led No or Orange side defeated the Kibaki-led Yes or Banana side by a 57% to 43% margin. A disappointed President Kibaki sacked the entire cabinet on 23rd November 2005. When Kibaki reconstituted the cabinet 2 weeks later, Raila and the rest of LDP leaders were left out. Raila formed a new opposition outfit, the Orange Democratic Movement ODM, with Kalonzo Musyoka. But in August 2007, ODM suffered a setback when Raila fell out with Kalonzo, and ODM split into two, with Raila becoming the head of ODM while Musyoka led the ODM Kenya splinter faction. Raila disputed the results of the hotly contested 2007 presidential election, triggering the signing of power-sharing agreement in February 2008 through the formation of the Kofi Annan negotiated Grand Coalition government. Odinga was sworn in on 17 April 2008 as Prime Minister as part of the power-sharing cabinet. He served as the country's Prime Minister until the inauguration of Uhuru Kenyatta as the fourth president on the 9th of April 2013, when the country's constitution promulgated in 2010 became effective. Well, that is Raila Odinga's service to the country as a member of the cabinet.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Our arts and entertainment industry has evolved over the years.
It is at such times that our destinies are written. Will we rise up in courage or die in cowardice?
Who are the movers and shakers in film and theatre? Get trendy as we review locally produced films and stage drama every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on Cinemas and Theatre.
Brought to you by the Kenya Film Commission. Film Kenya, Capture Africa.
Say glory be to the Most High God. Hallowed be thy name.
We are here to celebrate life and to unite the youths. So let us give thanks for the grand opportunity that Jah has given us.
Kill Him Every Day, Balance, More Than a Friend featuring Nyashinsky, and Anxiety, which he wrote after losing a friend to suicide. The show kept getting better and better. Time came for Zemani's hitmaker Chris Kaiga to get on stage, and fans sang along to his music throughout his performance.
I want this girl to come and dance with me like so, like so, like so, like so, like so, like so.
It's time for business. Betty Kip Tum.
Thank you very much, Tom. Indeed, I am Betty Kiptum, and time to do the business news now. National Construction Authority plans to introduce the use of drones to map and monitor compliance in the construction industry. NCA Executive Director, Engineer Maurice Akech, says the use of technology will be critical in reducing cases of malpractices in the sector that has seen more than 200 Kenyans lose their lives due to collapsing buildings. The authority has also said the shortage of building inspectors is hampering the inspection of buildings in the country.
According to research conducted by the National Construction Authority on the collapse of buildings, Kenya has recorded more than 100 building collapses in the last decade. In 2021 alone, more than 10 buildings collapsed in various parts of the country, killing more than 20 people. To this end, the National Construction Authority plans to employ technology to monitor construction sites. This will see the agency use drones for site mapping and inspection. NCA Executive Director Engineer Maurice Akech says the agency has prosecuted 18 people for disregarding NCA warnings and continuing construction, and has so far suspended the licenses of 26 contractors. Akech says the reduced manpower at the agency has made it cumbersome for NCA inspectors to inspect the over 300,000 buildings under development in the country. He further blames the rise in collapsed buildings to lack of coordination among players in the construction sector, adding that regulation is not a singular task and NCA plays a coordinating role, working with other agencies to ensure free flow of information, optimization of resource and knowledge sharing.
Of course, we may think we know why buildings are collapsing. Of course we know. But scientifically, we need to analyze and find out. And we came up with 6 strong points why they are collapsing, and those are some of the things we're working on. Coordination came out to be a very strong thing, which is part of our mandate. Then I think the main important thing is just ensuring that we have 100% compliance and 0 tolerance to non-compliance. Once we do that, we are good to go.
Incompetent professionals in the counties, national government and key regulators in the building sector are also contributing factors. Akech is urging players to adhere to the building code and adopt the best practices in the industry. Caroline Jenga for Prime Edition.
Now, 400 workers of Keroche breweries are facing the sack this week if the dispute between the brewer and Kenya Revenue Authority is not resolved. The Naivasha-based brewer has said the closure of its operations last month by KRA has paralyzed its operations, drying its financial inflows. The company is embroiled in a tax battle with KRA over the non-remittance of taxes.
For the second time this year, the Kenya Revenue Authority has sealed the operation of Keroche breweries, halting the production of its products. The country's second biggest brewer was reopened in April this year after KRA closed its operations in March. The tax agency accuses Keroche of failing to remit billions of shillings in withholding and pay-as-you-earn taxes. However, Keroche has blamed a tough operating environment for its financial woes, pleading with KRA for more time to settle the pending taxes. Last month, the Kenya Revenue Authority descended on the brewer's premises in Naivasha, accusing it of reneging on its promise to pay 400 million shillings every month to clear the tax backlog. Today, Keroche Brewery's Chief Executive Tabitha Karanja has said she is seeking audience with KRA for more time to repay its tax debt. She says if KRA fails to reopen its premises, it will be forced to sack its 400 workers since it cannot pay them. The ensuing tax feud with KRA has crippled the financial position of the fledgling brewer. Nduta Mokami for Prime Edition.
And investments in housing slowed in 2021, leading to a decline in house prices. The latest Kenya Bankers Association Housing Price Index report shows that the decline reflects headwinds in the economy that influenced both demand and supply. House prices on average went down by 1.82% in the first quarter of 2021, overturning the marginal recovery of 0.22% recorded in the fourth quarter of 2020.
A report by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics KNBS in 2020 revealed that developers in Nairobi are building smaller houses such as bedsitters, single rooms and one-bedroom houses to meet the demand for those house units among city residents. Within a span of 4 years, from 2015, there was an 84% increase in the number of one-bedroom units built in Nairobi. However, despite the appetite, prices have suddenly begun to decline. For example, in the second quarter of 2021, the prices softened 1.62%, 3.70% in the third quarter, and 3.99% in the fourth quarter of 2021. Kenya Bankers Association Research and Policy Director Samuel Tiriongo noted that the sharp drop in prices in 2021 reflected subdued investments that limited the rollout of new supply amidst easing demand. Over the same period, real estate sector activities expanded by 5.7% in the fourth quarter compared to 7.1% in the third quarter last year. Alanauko, Prime Edition.
Kenya and Uganda have signed a bilateral agreement that will facilitate the smooth flow of fish exports from Lake Turkana in Kenya through Uganda to the Democratic Republic of Congo. The formulated framework has established a multi-agency team to design the modality of fish transportation to DRC with ease. This comes as a sigh of relief to fish traders who have been facing challenges in fish exportation.
Kenya's fishing industry contributes about 0.5% of the national GDP and about 2% of the national export earnings. According to the draft Marine Fisheries Regulations 2022 and Lake Turkana Fisheries Management Plan, Kenya will earn at least 100 billion shillings and create 240,000 jobs annually once the new regulations in the fishing industry are fully implemented. The industry has been facing major challenges during fish exportation, which has prompted various discussions between Kenya and its counterparts. The Kenya and Uganda governments have developed a framework to ensure smooth transit of the commodity from Lake Turkana to the Democratic Republic of Congo without interference. The development comes after a fish consignment of at least 300 tons of fish worth 40 million shillings destined for the Democratic Republic of Congo were confiscated by Ugandan authorities in October last year. The document formulation began on 1st March 2022 after a delegation from both Kenya and Uganda traveled to Turkana to establish the source of dry fish. Kenya and Uganda have now agreed on several issues, including setting up a multi-agency team headed by respective county commissioners of Turkana, Samburu, Marsabit and Busia for a smooth transition of fish from Lake Turkana to DRC Congo through Uganda.
We agreed on having multi-agency teams in the regions that were affected, and I'm happy that today we are culminating that process with the signing of the smooth transition and movement of fish from Kenya to DRC through Uganda. We look forward to enriching this and ensuring that our peoples can be able to move and trade and transact business without hindrances. And of course, this is for the benefit of all of us in the spirit of the East African community integration.
The framework will address the challenges that faced the Kenyan fishermen at that time. Fish traders have been urged to apply the framework and fish in a sustainable way.
We agreed to set up a framework that would enable the fishing, the exploitation, or that would enable the trade in fish, especially transit trade to the DRC, to take place without any roughness, without any interference. All the factors that have been hindering this fish trade have been taken care of.
Part of the framework calls for joint inspection of the fish consignment by both Kenya and Uganda authorities at the Busia one-stop border post before they proceed for their destination. Reporting for Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
Internationally, a series of surprise actions by some of the world's largest central banks fretting about runaway inflation has left bond investors battered. Now, a growing chorus of investors is calling on policymakers to move fast to end the uncertainty. Until central banks are able to bring down inflation, some investors said markets will not have any certainty about rates. Here are the details of these and more from across the globe.
Central banks, especially the US Federal Reserve, have faced criticism that they have acted too slowly in taming inflation. The US Federal Reserve hiked rates last week by 75 basis points, its biggest rise in nearly 3 decades, and committed to delivering more big moves. Central banks across Europe also raised rates, in some cases by amounts that shocked the markets. The moves wreaked havoc in bond markets already in throes of their worst start to a year in history. Higher prices are bruising consumers by eroding savings, while higher rates increasing borrowing costs. Meanwhile, Australia's biggest building materials manufacturers are cutting operations, hiking prices and considering moving production offshore to manage a spike in power and gas bills, adding to pressure on the government to resolve the country's energy crisis. Power prices have surged in Australia amid a shortage of coal-fired generation due to planned and unplanned outages, which has driven up demand for gas-fired generation at the same time as gas demand for heating jumped during a cold snap. That has left Australia's $70 billion manufacturing sector, a major power and gas consumer, exposed to soaring costs, especially those whose cheaper long-term energy contracts are expiring. Finally, Russia has become China's biggest supplier of oil as the country sold discounted crude to Beijing amid sanctions over the Ukraine war. Imports of Russia oil rose by 55% from a year earlier to a record level in May, displacing Saudi Arabia as China's biggest provider. China has increased purchases of Russian oil despite demand dampened by COVID curbs and slowing economy. The imports into China, which include supplies pumped through the East Siberia Pacific Ocean pipeline and shipment by sea, totaled to 8.42 million tons last month. Terry Njenga, Prime Edition.
Well, that's it for the business news this evening. Sports news is coming up with Karen Kibet after the break. My name is Betty Kiptum. Good night.
Top sports attractions on KBC Channel 1. In July, Kenya Morans face off against the DRC, Egypt and Senegal in the FIBA Basketball World Cup African qualifiers in Alexandria, Egypt from 1st to 3rd of July 2022. Also in July, Kenya plays South Africa in Rugby League test matches in Nairobi with the return fixtures set for October. Still in July, watch the World Athletic Championships from 15th to 24th July live from Oregon, USA as Kenyan athletes seek glory. Followed by the 22nd Commonwealth Games from 28th July to 8th August live from Birmingham, England. In August, join our coverage of the World Athletics Under-20 Championships from the 1st to 6th of August 2022 from Cali, Colombia. Then, in November, catch the World Half Marathon Championships on 13th November from Yangzhou, China. Now that's what sets us apart as KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. Let's now delve into matters sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya today presented training kits to the athletes currently camping at Kasarani Stadium in preparation for the Birmingham 2020 Commonwealth Games. The event was presided over the National Olympic Committee first Vice President, Mr. Shadrack Maluki, who encouraged the athletes to keep working hard on their training. With 38 days to go, the team is expected to head into the bubble camp in a bid to ensure safety of the athletes and officials in camp. Speaking during the kit presentation, General Team Manager Evans Posiri put emphasis on the importance of maintaining COVID-19 protocols and ensuring athletes are of good health even as they continue with their training for the Games. Kenya is expected to send a contingent of 123 athletes to the club games expected to begin on 28th July to 8th August in UK.
Today it's going to be a bubble camp.
no going out, no coming in, and there are no visitors who have no business of being here. This is just to protect our athletes. We are ensuring that athletes are protected because those are the reasons as to why we are here. So our athletes come first. And we thank government for taking these measures because we all know there is cost implications. And the government of our republic, through the minister, CS Ambassador Amina Mohamed, and the PSG Okudo have done everything possible to ensure our goals and objectives are well achieved and protection of our athletes comes first. So
from today, we're going to have a purple camp that will ensure that we don't have unnecessary people in the camp, and we'll be able to be very, very strict so that we can protect the athletes who are going to perform for the country.
Volleyball star Sharon Chepchumba of KCB was today named the LG SJOC Sports Personality of the month of May. Chepchumba, who also plays for the national women team Malkia Strikers, won the award after being voted the most valuable player at last month's CAF African Women Club Championship in Kelibia, Tunisia.
KCB's Sharon Chepchumba today received the Best Sports Person of the Month of May award. Chumba was peerless in the Bankers 3-1 victory over title holders Al Ahly of Egypt in a pulsating Africa Club final.
LG has really encouraged me, and I will keep on working hard. I personally, I will not stop here. I will work hard so that nikwe recognize that na watu wengi. It will push me to work hard, and I'm not promising less. I will work hard.
In winning the coveted monthly award, Chepchumba took home a personalized trophy and an LG refrigerator worth 100,000 shillings.
We've done this for the last 7 years, and for us as a sponsor, it's been so rewarding because we've seen different sports personalities from different disciplines scooping the top, awards. We've awarded across different disciplines such as athletics. This year we've done volleyball, we've done tennis, and now today for the first time we are awarding a volleyball player. It's really exciting today, and even listening to the winner, just giving a testimony of how excited they are, the hard work they put in the pitch, and being recognized by the sports journalists and even LG. It's really encouraging to hear how they appreciate this kind of recognition.
Chepchumba beat a strong field of nominees, including double Deaflympics gold medalist Simon Kibai and deaf golfer Isaac Makoa, who became the first ever Kenyan golfer to win a medal at the Summer Deaflympics in Caxias do Sul, Brazil. The other nominee was Strathmore Leos player Branson Madigu, who was the MVP at the Kabeberi Sevens.
Congratulations, Sharon Chepchumba. Thank you, Barkley, for that report. Moving on, Kenyan shooters dominated the Kenya Open Level 3 IPSC Championship, which culminated at the Shaba shooting range in Samburu. Ibrahim Dungu of Bamburi Shooting Club won the production category, while DCI shooter Agnes Mushiri won the ladies category.
Mushiri, who is also the Kenya #1 lady shooter, beat Karo Kenya and Irene Wanjiko to the podium tussle. She was the top lady in the early morning session with 977 match points. Mushiri oozed confidence from her opening shot as she posted a hit factor of 5.23 on bay 1 and 4 flat on the 13th bay. Dongo, on the other hand, beat Inspector Alan Mohammed of National Police Service and Thomas Kiru to second and third positions respectively. Elsewhere, Mamba Rugby Club won the 2022 Driftwood Sevens after beating Menengai Oilers 21-7 in the finals played at the Mombasa Sports Club. The team, coached by Kevin Mboya, defeated Homeboys in 10-0-5 in the semi-finals, while Menengai Oilers eliminated defending champions KCB 19-0. The series moves to Dallas Sevens in Kisumu this weekend and will be followed by Prinsloo Sevens in Nakuru on the 2nd and 3rd of next month and Kakamega Sevens on the 9th and 10th of July.
Thank you, Nora, for that report. Now, finally, escalators emerged the winners of this year's edition of the Jumbo Bet Soccer tournaments held in Dagoretti after beating FIFA Best 1-0 in the final match. The two sides missed open chances in the first half, forcing a half-time goalless draw. In the second half, Calvin Roro's scores opened the scoring for escalators in the 68th minute. FIFA Best fought for an equalizer, but escalators' defense made no mistakes, forcing a 1-0 full-time score. This was the first time escalators beat FIFA Best after losing to them in the opening matches. Participants of the tournament called on the Ministry of Sports to organize soccer tournaments at grassroots level to uplift the standards of the game in the country. Now, the tournament brought together 74 teams from Dagoretti and the surrounding areas.
Kule upande wa Lize Pipa Iwezi dakika ni ya 75 unapata ni 0-0. Jambo Bet unaweza kuambia kwamba anakupatia ofa maridadi, unaweza fanya ile kitu inaitwa cash out lakini kujisajili,
tunaambia vijana huku wajue ya kwamba hawa ndio hutumika, hao ndio wanadamu moto, hao ndio wana nguvu. Tafadhali hiyo nguvu yao watumie kwa michezo, kuongea na kuelewana, lakini wasikubali kudanganyiliwa waingie upande ya vita.
Kuna challenges nyingi sana, story ya kugather watu, story za COVID, unakumbuka hizo restrictions za COVID, but tukai-stop for a while na sasa tuka-resume. Tulikuja tukakuwa na quarter finals, semis zilikuwa Thursday, zikachezwa vizuri sana, alafu sasa leo ni finali.
And that's your sports. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, with more sports news. Good night. My name is Karen Kibet. I hand you back to Mboya.
Many thanks indeed, Karen Kibet there. Just a quick one before we let you go. The IEBC Dispute Resolution Tribunal, remember, is making its ruling on this Mike Sonko matter. And they have rejected the documents that had been presented by Sonko. They cited 3 grounds, and of course part of the declaration is that the Wiper Party has a right to nominate another candidate, but there's a rider. It has to be 72 hours from the day that this decision was made. Of course, we have our pulse on that story, and our reporter Sarafin Robi will be giving us more comprehensive details on that report. Well, that's all we had time for. I want to thank the Prime Edition team for putting together this live broadcast, including our sign language interpreter, Lucy Mwaura. My name is Mboya. Good night from Nairobi, Kenya. Tomorrow is another day. Bye-bye.